Good morning. I'm Marlon Bowling with you. Happy Monday to you. I hope you had a good weekend out there. I'm your tour guide to the ag commodities, and we're going to go on a venture and take a look at what the trade may do this week with a little help from Brian Hoops, the president of Midwest Market Solutions, who joins us right now. And he's from Springfield, Missouri. All right, Brian, the markets last night were kind of lacking in direction, although I see where corn kind of sagged as we headed into the close. I want to take a look at the prices and then get your take on what is driving the market. So let's begin with a look at our corn market, and our quotes, of course, are provided by bar chart here. So May corn was down a nickel this morning at 6.58 and a quarter. You know, the May contracts, they go into delivery this Friday, right?
Absolutely correct, Marlon. Options were expired on last Friday. Delivery starts technically Thursday night. If you're still long, you could be chances of delivery are possible. Don't think they'll probably see much in the way of any deliveries with the tight basis levels and tight stocks, but market is weakening as it usually does going into that delivery period.
Okay, so July was down 5 3/4. That's basically where most of your nearby volume would be now. And if you take a look at the December contract, you had December a penny and a half lower this morning at 5.46 and a half. Now let's take a look at our soybean trade, and in the overnight session here, we had the May contract 5.5 higher, but like I say, it's running out of time before delivery. July soybeans only 3/4 higher at 14.49 3/4. November was down 3 1/4 at 12.82 per bushel. Kind of in the middle of its overnight trading range. And then you get to the wheat. And we heard all kinds of stories of tough conditions for the wheat over the weekend. A lot of areas had very cold temperatures. In fact, I heard in central Kansas it got down into the lower 20s in some areas there. And the wheat there is in the boot stage in some of that crop. And that can't be good. But yet the market started down about a nickel higher overnight. Went as much as about 8 cents higher, I believe, and then backed off. And now we have July Chicago wheat unchanged at 6.73 per bushel this morning. Kansas City wheat, the July actually a half cent lower at 8.25. It got as high as 8.35 1/4. Now, in the Minneapolis market, this would be your spring wheat that really hasn't been planted yet very much. You have July now trading 4.5 cents higher this morning at 8.50 1/4. So explain this wheat situation if you could, Brian. I'm hearing all kinds of different stories. Yeah, the wheat is hurt. Yeah, the wheat may come through it just fine. I've heard some reports that maybe the center stem of the wheat froze and the side tillers may not. I'm just hearing a little of everything out there. So is that why the market seems to be kind of caught sitting on its hands right now? There's no bullish news other than that weather right now.
Yeah, it's really hard to assess damage the night after the fact. It takes 4 or 5 days or even a week to really determine how much damage has been caused. I think no doubt that there was some damage in parts of Kansas. The forecast for Kansas is drier than what it was last week. A lot of that rain has moved into the southern region, into Oklahoma, Texas, and maybe some southern Kansas, but a lot of the state misses out, and certainly out in Dodge City and west. It's a major drought. There's just the wheat is all brown, just like the grasses in your yard. Barely has enough moisture even to emerge. So it's a real dire situation. But it's right now it's kind of about the funds and their tendencies to either cover shorts or keep pushing the short positions. They really don't trade that much in the overnight, I don't believe. So it's going to be more of a day session in here. We still could get that short covering off of this news and in the wheat market. And if we're going to move higher, it's probably going to be led by the wheat. I don't think it's going to be the corn, probably not the soybeans, as it's hard to get a rally going into deliveries, but also while you're planting the crop, very hard to get a rally. And there's a lot of talk about Brazil corn being exported out of the world markets and kind of overtaking the U.S. Much cheaper to buy Brazilian corn, and that's putting a hurt on some of our old crop values here. So there's some negative news, a couple of positive pieces flying around with the frost damage, freeze damage in the wheat, and a little bit drier conditions. But yeah, that's the market's probably going to lead us higher if we're going to see a rally here on short covering.
Yeah, we're kind of walking a tightrope here, and even in central Illinois, it got below freezing in a few spots. So, some of that corn's out of the ground already. Boy, I tell you what, we're cutting it close. Brian will come back and talk a little livestock when we return right after this. All right. Well, we are back talking with the one and only Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions, and he's in Springfield, Missouri. We're going to change our focus now and talk about livestock a little bit. Brian, you and I were talking about the conditions about the wheat in Kansas and surrounding areas, how cold it got. On the other hand, you go into the far western part of the state, the wheat has been zeroed out, from what I understand, by insurance adjusters. It's already gone. And now I'm hearing tales that the pasture land still looks totally dead or dormant. It never has greened up yet. They really missed out on the rain again. And because of that, I'm hearing of a lot of cattle heading to market instead of going to pasture this year. That could keep the livestock runs kind of full here for a while, don't you think?
Yeah, that would be a little bit of a negative factor as far as our runs go, giving us a little bit more of that supply, although it is, kind of a greener supply. But it does create, again, a situation where we did the same thing last year and the year before. We're pulling cattle off of those pastures and not letting them green up, but we just don't have those replacements that'll be coming down the road. It's going to keep our overall supply extremely, extremely tight. Cattle on feed report was kind of a bearish surprise, especially the placement numbers up well above expectations. Now, on a bright spot, it was the 7th consecutive month of placements coming in below year-ago levels. Showing still tighter supplies going forward, but just the initial reaction this morning may be a little bit of a bearish one because we kind of rallied going into it on Friday. We could see a little bit of weakness in here. There's a feeling that we put in our spring high for the cash markets, and we could pull back just a little bit before we take another run under tighter supplies into the summer before we put a summer high in the cash markets. So this week could be a little bit of a down week or a little choppy trade, but we should certainly see a reaction, I think, a little negative one based off of the surprise of the placements this morning.
Yeah, the placements number came in at 99% roughly of a year ago, and the trade was expecting 94.9 or actually 95%. So yeah, a little heavy by about 4 points there. Let's recap where we finished up last week, and let's look at our live cattle quotes from bar chart. We did have June closing 17 higher Friday at 164.52, so that's going to be our starting point here today. Feeder cattle, they closed the May contract a nickel higher at 212.40 last Friday. The other months beyond that were 30 to 40 higher. And then on the lean hogs, we finished up and headed into the weekend with the June showing an impressive $1 gain at 86.07. We'll see if they can build on that this morning or if they turn around and crash again like they have tended to do. Brian, good to visit with you again. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And best wishes this week. Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions with us.